Hey guys, it's me again, Orc Slayer. What is this? And again, sorry for yesterday. I really couldn't come up with an actual video. I had one, like I said, but there's just a lot of details I missed out on, so I went and re-watched not series, but that's part of the season, twice, maybe even 3 times. So hopefully I've gotten everything down. And some of the character names, yes. But as I continue, Belle and all of them, if Lily is still taken off. So none of that really changes with the Soma Familia. They literally just charge in. But Belle at this point is still making preparations to attack the Apollo Familia's little castle, because that's what he knows they have to do. So as they're getting all that done, they get Lily, except the Feral Fang helping a lot, and their gods, I'll say they're each in separate familias, and each of their gods are just we know you owe your allegiance to this Sir Artorias, but we can't keep doing this. You're gonna drag us into stuff. And they're you gotta choose between us or him. They just straight up say, they're forgive us, our gods, or goddess, but we must still serve our knight. We must still serve our Sir Artorias. It's a blood thing they've taken, apparently, Belle, heard about this, that, as they were, in formation one day, or something along those lines, they all, literally held up a knife and, slit their hands and say, Sir Artorias, we swear ourselves. They, did, a blood bond, a blood oath, saying that they would literally serve him till their last days. And as they did this, they're we swore on our blood that we would serve him. And as the gods say, fine, we don't like to do this, but hopefully we can remain friends. He's most of them are we understand. All of them understand. Now as I continue, there's they get Lily, and now they're preparing. The assault on the siege is gonna happen relatively the same, with Ryu going from the front. If you didn't know, they have Ryu going from the front and just destroying their walls. Now as that's happening, they have 5 Feral Fangs. Now some people commented some names like Jack, Dexter, and Axel, and then there was 2 others. I don't know. Jack, Dexter, and Axel rushing with Mikado. Axel is just going in crazy. Dexter is, as the guy described, sort of like Jack and Dexter, the game, if I remember correctly. And then Jackal, forget how he described them, but he's just a normal guy. Axel's going crazy. Jack is, well, not Jack, but Dexter is just running around. And then 5 others are with Ryu. So Terry and Darren are with Belle and Welf. And I believe there's 2 others, and those 2 are with Sif, just causing havoc elsewhere. But instead of blowing up the bottom, Belle literally just kicks down the doors and they go off their hinges, just He's I've come for you, Apollo's Familia. And as they hear this, couple of guys run forward, Belle just wipes the floor with them. This guy literally just charges forward, just I'll get you this time, and then Belle just literally just slams him to the ground, boosh. My nipples. But as I digress, Belle and all of them win. They all celebrate and still get the house. Now they'll need this house because, well, they have a lot more people. like Wealth, Lily, Mikado, and the Feral Fang, the rest of the Fang have come. And so they'll all have their like little place. They all don't get the renovate, like they all don't make these massive renovations like they want to in the anime. Except for like Mikado, Wealth, and them. They still have like, so I'll say they're not in debt. Because if you don't know, they were like in massive debt to Hephaestus because of Belle's knife in the original. And what happens is that they don't really have this like massive recruitment, because Hestia has literally just recruited a lot of people. And so before she starts bringing in like fresh meat, she's like, well, I'm gonna get to know these like Feral Fangs. If they're part of Belle's group, they're good, so I should probably get to know them. So as they digress, y'all grew through the day, and the blue-haired chick, I would just call her not seer, but soothsayer, because I believe the soothsayers were like people who could like apparently see the future. So I'll call her Sooth, and the redhead just redhead. They both saw their like a little interaction with them, like trying to like open, like she says her pillow's still here. So Belle goes find her pillow. She's like, thank you. And so they come like back later. Tomorrow, I would say, is like what they say. They're like, he's like, if you guys need a familia, maybe Hestia would take you in. If that's what you want, actually. It's like how he describes it. Now, Belle and them are still doing their thing, and they come back and like Hestia interviews them. She like likes to look at them, so they're like, alright, you're in. So as this is saying, the Feral Fang are like, yeah, we got 2 new recruits already. And as they're saying this, like, they're like wondering, hey Belle, you gonna train these 2 as well? No, they seem pretty fine without me having to train them. And Joan and Valerie still have this like flashback. If you don't want to know what they did, they essentially just went in like with Sif. They just went with Sif. Because literally they had like very strong forces, so they just like spread them throughout to cause enough chaos. And now as I continue, Dexter is like trying to make a move on them. He gets shot down, which I'll say is kind of weird. Like Belle's like a few of the guys is like, dude, do you know how old they are? And they're like, no, they look like they should be old enough. And they're like, no, we're both like 16. And he's like, well, shoot. Because I'm doing like it's like 18 or older is when you're considered adult. I'm pretty sure that ain't true, but you know what. Deal with it, please. Because I just find it weird. But as I continue, I will continue like where now I'll say they're all having like a feast, like welcome the new arrivals and to celebrate their new house. So they're like, let's get a food. Like all of them are just eating. Like all of them are just like partying like how they would usually do when it's like a feast. The Feral Fangs are like getting rowdy, and the rest of them are like, geez, Belle, how were they always like this? He's like, I had to rein them in one time. One of these got too out of hand, and then the town mayors got angry. And he describes some of the like shenanigans they've gone up before. And so like some of the Feral Fangs are like, I'll say Kyle is like, so who are these 2? Because they really haven't gotten to know like Joan and Valerie that much, because they just sort of been in the background. And as Joan was about to speak, Valerie's like, we are Belle's proteges. And as they say that, the 2, like, the entire Feral Fangs are like, what? You actually took on students? And they all, like, a few of them, like, kind of laughed. They're like, ha! Didn't think I see the day. And as they're laughing, like, Belle's like, oh, shut it, you mutts. And they all just, like, start laughing. They're like, actually, that brings up the question, who trained you, Master Belle? We know it was, like, Sir Boreas, the the unfoundable, untouchable or something. The untouchable, yeah. How that happened was, well, I believe I was 13. Still a big lad. As you can see, I'm pretty big. And he, like, describes how, like, one day he was, like, found one of the nuns getting mugged. And, like, Belle stepped in and, like, took him down. Like, these guys, like, had, like, a knife and an axe, I would say. Standard, like, little muggers, I guess. And they, like, one charged him. He, like, not tripped him, but, like, kicked. He, like, rushed forward, grabbed the axe, and, like, smashed his head into the wall. Next guy tried running forward and, like, slashing with his knife. Belle literally just sort of, like, kicked his legs and then broke his arm. Sister's like, thank you, Belle. As he says this, he's like, Sir Boreas was watching. He was, like, about to run down and help. Then he saw that. He's like, So he went down and talked to Belle, like, what do you want to, like, talk to him about? What's your name, boy? He's like, Belle, sir. And your last, no last name, sir. And as they're, like, talking, they just keep going, and Belle talks about his, like, want to become a knight because he heard all the stories. And how he, like, wants to be, like, a valiant knight. He's like, you know, some of the knights around there are, like, trying to find squires. He's like, wait, really? Like, I've been looking around, like, listening around, but I really haven't heard anything. Yeah. You know what? How about some training so you can really impress them? And so, as they, like, he's like, meet me here tomorrow morning. He's like, yes, sir. As he, like, runs off, Sir Boreas is like, And so he gets, like a heavy set of armor, training swords, and all that. He's like, you there, boy? And he's like, yes, sir. I got here a bit early. He's like, good, put all this on. As Belle was putting all this, like, heavy and cumbersome armor, he's like, this is all kind of heavy. You gotta know what it feels like to wear armor if you ever become a knight. It's like, yes, sir. And so Sir Boreas is, like, training him. He's like, now, take up your sword and shield, come at me. As Belle, like, sees this, he, like, sort of picks it up and sort of, like, holds it like, I would just say a novice. And he just has it up. He really isn't, like, doing the professional blocking and stabbing and sword at the ready. So Boreas charges in and, like, disarms him and kicks him on his legs. He's like, keep your shield up. You want to stay alive? Keep it up. It's the wall against everything that wants to kill you. And that sword is your weapon. Now take it up. As this is going on, Belle is just sort of, like, they go through this, like, training, like, for hours on end. And Belle's like, And I was like, one more time, boy, come on. And as that happens, like, Belle's, like, at the ready. He's, like, holding it like he does normally, and then, like, charges forward a kind of bit. Sir Boreas, like, goes to block, but Belle, like, thrust his arm out, like a punch, I guess, and, like, sort of hits Boreas, knocks him on his feet, and, like, Belle, like, brings the sword up, but Boreas, like, quickly counters, hits it out of his hand, and then trips Belle and, like, gets on top of him, like sword at throat. He's like, huh. He, like, stands up and, like, helps Belle up. He's like, whoa, you're a pretty good boy. Lessons are done for today. It's like, and then he's like, forgive me, Sir Boreas, but you never told me, where those, knights would be going and getting, like, more squires. Test them out. He's like, oh, right. Well, welcome aboard. As he's like, Belle has this moment, he's like, what? It's like, you just found yourself a knight. You're gonna be my squire. And I'll say Mary was sent out by Mother Teresa because she, like, saw Belle out go super early. He's never out this early. So she sort of, like, followed him. He's like, alright, see you later, kid. Meet back here. Same time. Same thing. He's like, oh, what about the armor? Keep it. You'll have to train in it. Like, come back in that whole suit. And he's like, this goes on for several days. And Belle's like, ooh. As he gets back, like, Mother Teresa's like, where'd you get this? And he's like, Sir Boreas gave it to me. What? Apparently I'm his new squire. All of them are like, oh, that's cool and such, and they all get like excited for Belle. Even Mary, she's like, good job, Belle, yeah. And so he's like that, and he's like, that's how I became Sir Boreas' squire. Some of the men are like, we never knew that. Jack's like, ha. Imagine that could have been any one of us, and all of them just like, yeah, right, he'd never take you. And they all just like, he's like, oh, shut up. And as they continue forward, Mikado still has the interaction with her lady. She calls her like lady something other, but she's like really unremarkable, so I don't really know the name. So as they're going through this, Belle and them still like follow her around, but I'll say Belle takes a potion. Like, everyone else is asleep at this point. They're like, go, and they're all sleeping. Like, each of the soldiers, like each of the men get their own different rooms, so they're like, yeah, this is so comfortable. And so as they're going through the day, they sort of, not day, but they still follow Mikado and her like friend. And so as they're doing this, Bella is taking a potion to make them smaller. Like, just make them smaller. It's like wearing normal clothes, like his clothes, and they all did this. So they're all just following him around. So as they walking through, they find the red light district. If you know what that is in the anime, don't say anything. No, don't say anything, just, I don't really have to say about it. The red light district. So as they're going through, they're still following them like they did in the anime. Belle still gets cut off. He's like, wait, guys, don't leave me. He's like, why are we here? He's like, we're following them. And as this happens, Belle still gets swept away in the crowd of people with that one woman still clinging to him. And as he's like walking through, he's just going through, he's like, God, how do I get out of this place? Because he never really was one for this. He's like more calm inside. He's like, how do I get out of here? But he's like trying to figure it out. He's kind of lost. So he thinks about going to ask for someone for direction. He's like, runs into Hermes. And he like runs Hermes. He's like, ooh, what are you doing here, Sir Artorias? He's like, I could ask you the same, Hermes. And as they're speaking, Hermes is like, well, let's just not say anything about this, and gives him the potion. He's like, wait, before you go. Oh, how do I get out of here? He's like, oh, I don't know. He's like, maybe it's over this way. And as he's running, he's like, Belle's like, wait up! As he's running over there, he still runs into Aisha. I actually went and looked up her name and rewatched it and found out her name. It's Aisha. And he still has that whole scenario, like, where they're like, hang on, isn't this... He looks very familiar, but I can't put my hand on it. It's like, he looks kind of like Sir Artorias. He's like, oh. To take a shrinking potion? He's like, yeah, like, so... Like, he tries to explain the situation, but they still do the same thing in anime. He's like, where did you get this? Some guy... He's like, some man just walked up and gave it to me. He was kind of drunk, saying, oh, you need this, good sir. As he makes a drunk impression, he's like, you're like this, sir. And they're like, oh, we see. Well, anyways, they just drag him back. He's like, oh god. So the same situation happens in the anime, where they're like cut off. All of them still like go back to like home, but Belle still ends up at that place. As he's sneaking away, it's sort of like, it makes a loud thump as he like grows giant again, like whoa. As he like takes like not miscalculate, but he took like a really heavy step because he just suddenly grew. And as he turns around, they all see him. Aisha, Toad, I forgot her name. I'm sorry, but I just can't remember her name. Some of these names are just weird. Like Aisha, I've never heard of a name like Aisha. But I digress. So as he like runs away, he's like, go, 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 go. He's like sprinting, like more like lunging. If you ever seen like how fast he is, yeah, he's like lunging, like he's like jumps over in the railing. He's like, go, 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 go. And if you want to acknowledge what happens in the beginning with like Ishtar, he's like, oh, they're like, don't look at Ishtar, and he's like, get off me. He like tries to wiggle out. He's like, who is that? And he's like, oh, nobody, Ishtar. She's like, oh well. Still, same thing happens to Hermes. Hermes, poor man. And he still escapes. He still runs into, I believe, like, tries to sneak out, but he doesn't know where to go. So he's just wandering until he finds the place where Haruhime was, which I believe is her name, Haruhime. So he still has that whole interaction with her. He's like, wait, you like heroes too? And they go on forever. Like, Bell, like, doesn't, like, talks about a lot and, like, very talkative. He's on, like, a hold up in his show, like, ooh. He, like, if you bring up the subject of the heroes, he gets, like, really excited, like a kid. So he's like, oh yeah, this hero and this hero. He, like, lists off the heroes he does in the anime. And she also talks about, like, how she is a prostitute and how she doesn't deserve to be saved. He's like, that's hogwash. She's like, what? It's hogwash. She's like, what do you mean? A hero's duty is to save everyone. Even prostitutes. And as he says this, it's just a matter of how each person is in their heart. As he has this, she's like, nah, he's just probably taking pity on me. It's like, if you're thinking I'm taking pity on you, I am not. Plus, you are a fox, and I'm a wolf. And he makes comparisons like how it says, K9s all those stick together. And as this is like said, she's like, well, in like turns of day, she's like, we can go now. And as they like still get escorted back, he's like, thank you. Sincerely, I thank you. He's just like in a giant cloak, just hiding, because I'll see there's a few Amazons still like watching him. They see him like walking with Aisha, like, oh, that's very good. And just doing a weird accent. Yes, I was very lost. Different land. And as he's doing this, he's just hoping and praying no one else knows it's him. And he gets out. The whole scenario with Hestia and them happened, like, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god. And the whole situation, and some of the men are just like making jokes at his expense, like, oh, he finally went to the red light district. They talk about, well, we went there a few times ourselves, haven't we, lads? Except for Axel, he just always stayed with his familia, never came and hang out. It's like, oh, quiet, as he like goes back to sharpening his weapon. Just something stereotypical, like sharpening weapons, messing with like little things and such. And now they all, and Kyle's like, oh man. Then he like makes a joke that we all probably know. If not, you're too young, not corrupted yet. He makes the joke that we'd all probably do, and he like, Bella just like throws something at him, shut it. He's like, yeah, nothing happened, I just got cut off, and the Amazons were looking for me all night. As he like adds that last part, like the entire room goes like, hold up, the Amazons were hunting you? Yeah. You know, they only do that to certain guys. And he's like, yeah. Did anything happen? No. Like, you wasted your shot. And so, they still go to the thing, and Hestia still punches them. He's like, we don't have any brooms big enough. She's like, I don't care, take this. Just throws him a broom. He's like, I don't really have anything. She's like, fine, go get like a giant stick from the training room and put some, she's like, oh, go get a spear and put a broom head on it. It's like, fine. As he does that, he just like goes around cleaning, and everyone still does their thing. And Hermes still runs to the whole end saying he messed up, saying he like that Mamma Mia still has to send that message to Freya about like how Belle is in danger. So as they're doing their whole thing, he still runs in with the not runs in, but still like meets with Mikado and Belle. The whole thing with, and I'll say some of the men came out and he's like, "Hey, take over. We got some business to talk about." Some of the men are like, "Yes, sir." Some of them are still at the house, just doing whatever, really. And as I digress, they still go through the thing. He's like, "So, I thought I'd give you some information." Talks about the killing stone and all that, and how it may pay to, like, how much they would have to pay for Haruhime. Well, he says that first, then, like, goes on to tell them about the killing stone. So they still do their thing. And as they're in the dungeon, they, like, still, like, oh, we can get that money pretty quickly. So as they're, like, all their groups are doing their thing, they're, like, separated. Belle and all of them still end up in the pantry. Belle, like, he isn't, like, getting cornered. He's just, like, sort of following, like, some of the monsters run away, and he, like, takes them. He's like, "I got the ones over here." Chases them down the hallway. That's when the whole Aisha, like, the entire gang of, like, Amazon women jump him. And these are, like, their most powerful fighters. So he's, like, sort of, like, trapped. He's like, "What are you?" And they shoot him with, like, some weakened, like, drugs that weaken him. He's like, "Oh!" He's, like, weakened to about a quarter, but he's still giving them, this entire group, one heck of a fight. It's like, shattering their swords and hitting them. Then they finally, like, get some chains on him, like, and, like, chain him. He's like, "Oh, what are you?" As he, like, tries to break him off, Mikado still comes in and, like, tries to help, then just, like, clapped. And as they're, like, down, like, Belle's like, oh, come on. Sif isn't for this journey. He's, like, gone off with, like, another group of the Pharaoh Fangs. Or he's, like, just stayed at the mansion with, like, the soothsayer and the red hair chick. They're just like, "We want to brush him." So they just brush him. He's like, "I enjoy the grooming." And Belle still gets captured, but this time he really isn't. He's, like, hauled and changed. Like, he's a pretty hard target, so they, like, use that shrinking spell and, like, cover him in change. So he's like, ugh. Whole thing with him, like breaking out, like, Haruhime, like, he isn't, like, hung up. He literally just is standing with, like, the chains, like, and the Toad still does the thing she does in the anime. She is weird and freaky as all heck. But Haruhime still comes over and she's like, "I got you." As he's like, "No need," and just, like, rips the chains off the wall. He's like, "I merely did not want to kill her." As he's like, "Yeah." Now, as Belle's doing that, they, like, try to escape. Haruhime, like, shows them the way out, but before Aisha can really take Haruhime, he just sort of grabs her before and, like, holds her tight. Like, hits Aisha back. Then the entire gang of the Amazons come over and they're like, "You want to do something about it?" Now, with this part, this is going to be tricky. Because Belle won't not leave her there. And at the most, she's like, I'm Sir Belle, Sir Artorias, it's fine. And as she, like, they sort of, like, in a lapse, he, like, lets go kind of bit, then they, like, yank her away. He's like, "She'll be used for a killing stone." He's like, as she's hearing, and as Aisha talks about how the Toad tortured her, and Ishtar did what Ishtar does, he sort of has this, like, moment of pure, utter rage for a god. The, like, intent to murder this god. Like, not just send her back to wherever she came from, he means kill her. He's like, "Fine, then I make a promise to you, Aisha. When I come from Himiko, I'm coming for Ishtar's head." And as he's walking away, he's like, "That's a promise on the wolf's blood." Or like, that's a promise from Fenrir's champion. Or whatever you prefer. And as they take this a serious threat, because, like I said, Fenrir on this is nicer. And like, not as bad as people described her to be. But she is like, sort of like a... She has, I'll say there are like, just make up some gods from any pantheon, I guess, and just say she's like known as the god killer because she kills these bad gods. If some of them seem nice, but they were bad, that's like, she's like that. So, he's like gearing up to like assault the headquarters, I guess, with the Pharaoh Fang in tow. He's like, duh, duh, duh. They're like, we shouldn't do this. The other two are like, we shouldn't get interested in a war. He's like, I will not allow these transgressions to go unpunished. As a knight, it is my duty. And so as they're going forward, the men are like having flashbacks to when Bell and them, like in his little company, had to raise some, not raise, but they literally went and attacked full-on towns because of the people there. There were like really evil people, and they just started like causing havoc, and they literally walked through the town, because these guys who were in charge of this town were bad, like really bad guys. So as they're like causing havoc, they're like walking through, and Freya and them are like on their way as well. So as they bust down the doors, like the Pharaoh Fang are just like, they're like that, and then like Belle sees Freya and all them. Like Freya and them acted a lot quicker. So like, the killing so must be done quickly. And as they're walking, Belle like sees Freya and like looks at her, and she looks at him. He's like, "Fine, attack!" As this happened, he like grabs onto like Sif, and they like climb the thing. The Pharaoh Fang just like kind of go crazy and do whatever. Like, you heard them, boys, let's go! As they like charge in, they start going through. Belle does the whole thing with like saving Himiko, and just like tears through like the Amazons, and like takes that little dagger the one was holding, and literally snaps it in half, and like cuts the chains. Now as the Toad like, come on girls, let's kill him, they all try to jump. Belle just like throws him, like hits her through the floor. The others go and try to deal with the not Ishtar, but the Freya Familia, and the one still attacks him like, I respect you. And so he like, they go forward, and she tries to duel him, but he just breaks her sword in half, like, I made a promise to you, Aisha, and just like hits him down. And hits her down. It's like, I said I would kill Ishtar. And as he looks up, he can like see Ishtar from her balcony. And I'll say Freya is like, this happened really, really quickly. And Freya can like see as Belle walks over and like sort of gets Sif, and he jumps down. He like looks at Freya, and like all the men, his men are quick. They've already gone inside. And they all like look up, and they see like where Ishtar is, and then like Belle, like after he's done looking at her, he looks up and just draws his sword and just like starts parkour, like just running against the walls, and like is coming for Freya. Freya's like, she's like, let's get out of here. As she's like running away, Freya's Familia like tries to get to Ishtar first. Ishtar does not get away because Belle's on her and Freya. So as Belle and Freya have like somewhat cornered her, like the two Amazonian women come to attack, and then Belle like raises, she's like, no need. And she does that, and then Belle says, alright. And I may be going really quickly, but I'm trying to fit a lot in. And as the one guy tries to attack Freya, Belle like sort of puts his sword out like, no. And Freya still does the whole charming thing. It's like, they still have discussion, like, she's like, why do people like men like you more than they like me? And she's like, fine wine, I guess. And as this happens, he's like, you've gotten your answer. Now as that happens, Belle just like swings his sword. Freya's like, she's shocked at this because she did not know that Belle was sort of capable of this. And he's like, I made a promise. She was no god who loved her children. And as he finishes these words, he's like, remember that. Ooh, remember that, Freya. Gods who do fickle deeds and such don't deserve to be called gods. As he's like walking away like a bad A, he like walks down all the way. The Pharaoh Fang are around, like sort of get all their things done. Mikado and all of them are still okay. They were all there, and they all saw Belle like chop off the head. And they're like, is she actually? And they're like, he is. And now, I said it was a wolf's fang. Now it's god slaying wolf, like a god's. He's like known getting a lot of titles. Fenrir's Wrath, and now he's like known as God's Bane. And now he's like getting more things like Fenrir's Champions. Because of how Fenrir is, the killer of gods. And such. Because in Ragnarok, I believe Fenrir is the one that kills Odin. Well, they kill each other technically, but yeah. And as I digress, they sort of still go through that thing. Like running out of breath. But as I digress. Well, this has only been going on for 36 minutes. Well, alright. But as I digress, the still try to do their thing. Where they all still get that thing. Haruhime like joins the Hestia Familia as a maid. He's like, finally got a maid in the end. And some of the guys like treat like Himiko with the utmost respect. Because Belle himself went up to save her. So they're like, this lady deserves respect. So as like they all like are, as Himiko like walks by, as like some of them are walking about, they like part ways and like sort of do like a miniature like salute. They're like, Himiko, Himiko. And so as they keep going, like, she's like, why are they doing that? She like sort of asks them, and this is like Terry and Darren. They're like, you were saved by Sir Artorias himself. He says you're worthy of living. That deserves recognition in itself. And they like all give her like really a lot of respect, and they keep going. And the whole thing with like Belle's like, oh, what are you doing? She's like, oh, just doing some laundry, and that whole thing happens. It's like, oh, it's fine. He's like, oh. And Hestia still has like that little meeting like, relations between familiar members forbidden. And they like Mikado and well, still that whole, I got a thing with Hephaestus, and I'm close to this god, and blah blah blah. Hestia still does the whole, yeah, that's okay. But she's more tiled down. She has toned it down. So she doesn't really have that runoff thing. Well, I'll say she still runs off because Belle, they're like, you're an idiot. She's like, what? And he's like, God, how did he ever land Mary? They're like, how did he ever land Mary? The most beautiful girl in the entire kingdom. And that's what Mary was known for, as being like the most beautiful. That at one point even the Lord tried to get her, but Belle's like, you dare. And he like, Belle was a knight at this point when the Lord tried to, or at least like his like a cousin or something tried to take Mary away, and Belle's like, he ain't having this. So he challenged that Lord to one-on-one combat. He said, you can pick any man in this kingdom or beyond, and I will fight them for Mary's honor. And like, he literally, he chose like the biggest, baddest dude ever. He's like, this is my personal knight, Sir Brachus. Brachus, I think, is a name I have not used yet. If I have, I'm sorry. And he's like, Belle just takes him down quickly, like, we're done here. It sort of just walks away with Mary like, da 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 da, like a bad A again. Now, Hestia, they all hear about this, like, war going on with the Ares. If you don't know, I'm pretty sure Ares is the god of that kingdom and such. So, as that's happening, I believe the guy's name is Ares. As that's happening, Bell and all, like, the Pharaoh finger, like, Bell, guess what? The black god are without, like, on me trying to take over Artoria. And he's like, what? And the Amazonians are like, yeah, you didn't know this is before. So he's like trying to wager, should they like go off and go? And then like he was probably planning on telling Hestia, yeah, we're gonna go help with that whole thing. Oh, you can't go there without consent. Consent from who? Your gods? And so I was like, alright, we're going then. So as they stop that, they sort of like get Hestia, and Ares and them still like kidnap Hestia, and they're like, where's Hestia? And he still has that talk with Hephaestus and such, but he's like, I just don't do that. And they all like come to understand like they did in the anime. The Pharaoh Fang and them chase after Ares and them. But the Blackguard are like his personal escort this time. And they still have that issue. Like they charge after him. Ares like runs with the Blackguard and like a captain. Then they see who's chasing him. It's the entire like remaining of the Pharaoh Fang. They're like, boys, it's the Pharaoh Fang. This is our chance. As they like sort of like grab Hestia and like throw her towards Bell and them. He's like, you ain't getting away that easy. And they charge forward. Bell and them just like slaughter. And all that. They all still like, they don't, yeah, if I remember correctly, they all get, not all, but Bell and Hestia and them just sort of get swept away through like a mudslide or whatever. It ended up in a village. And Eyes eventually appears there. If I remember, like I said, I've been trying to drill into my head, but it's quite difficult. So, I'm like trying to remember this from the top of my head, and I've watched it quite a bit today. So, they all still have the thing, and Belle, during this entire point in the village, sort of just keeps having these memories of Mary coming back, because like I said, those two were in like the mountains for like maybe 4 years, maybe? Like 2 or 4 years. Like the war ended when he was 21. They like spent 2 years wandering around, and they spent another 2 years at that farm. So they had like festivals and such that they went to for a couple of years and such. They went through all that. Now, as I digress, he just has these memories that keep flashing back, like, at the night of the festival, Belle's like not at the giant fire. For like a little while he is, but then he just has the memories that keep coming back. So he like gets up and walks off. He's like, and just like finds a tree and just lays down. He's like, and he's just like sort of just sitting there like, he like takes, he's like, hey Mary, I don't know if you're there, but if you are, I miss you. It's like this really heartfelt moment. I really miss you, Mary. I've made it to Artoria. It's a very good city. You would have loved it. Very beautiful. The dungeon, the dungeon is so beautiful. It's like, but question sometimes, what if I had just stayed there at that little farm, didn't come? And he's just having all these eternal questions, just asking, what do you think, Mary? What do you think? And he like starts to like get all sad, like, what should I do, Mary? What should I do? What should I do? and he's like starting to legitimately kind of tear up and cry, but he's like, and like gets all like sort of sob like, I don't know what to do, Barry. Sometimes I question it, you know? Now see, eyes is like right there. Hesty and eyes are like right there listening to him. Like, sometimes, Mary, I just question, what would you have told me to do if you were standing right here next to me? And as they like sort of see him, they can like see like he has pure pain in his eyes, like sort of like a pure pain mixed with longing that he had just wished Mary was still here. And that's what he's like wishing that. He's like, sometimes, Mary, I wake up and wonder if this is all just some sort of dream or nightmare. That you aren't really here. That I'm not. You aren't really gone, but in truth, I know you are. And you ain't coming back. So as these like emotions are getting to him, then he's just like. Then they each hear a voice. He's like, "Who's that?" And so it's like an apparition of Fenrir in like anthropomorphic form. He's like, "Of Fenrir. Oh, what do you want?" I heard you crying. What's wrong? He's just like, just thinking about someone long ago. Was it Mary, was it? Your wife? As he's just like, yeah. Sort of just like... and just like has, like... she like goes over and comforts him, like... she's like in touchy-feely sort of thing. Like she can like feel him and he can feel her. She's like, something's happened for a reason. You know this? He's like, yeah. I know. It's just sometimes I miss her. And as she's doing that, like, why don't you just lay down? He's like, yeah, probably. And she just sort of has him lay down on her tail. He's like, just lay here. No, be a pillow for now. It's like, thank you. And as he just like, and just like sort of cries himself to sleep. It's very sad for them, and like Belle like falls asleep after a little bit, and Fenrir's like, you can come out now. And as that happens, like Hestia and Eyes come out, and he's like, you see here, this is true Artorias. Not this invincible warrior or anything. The only people who know him this well are like Fenrir and Sif. Because Sif has been there for the time she's like cried. He's like, God, I miss. Like when Belle has like felt these like wants to cry, to just like be alone, Sif has found him and like comfort him. Like he's like a support dog. He's like, yeah, Sif, I know, I miss it too. He's like, I know I can't keep crying forever. He's like, I'm not being a baby, you're being the baby. And she sort of like recalls this, like, Mary was one of the most important people in his life. And this likely will never go. So as she like says this, she's like, so, if you all think you can ever replace her, like, they're like, we don't ever think we could do that, but we want to help him. So like, maybe one day you can, but now he just needs to rest. And so they go through that entire week through the same thing, like they help around and do all that. Belle hasn't had his, he like has had his annual crying fit. It's like, I guess like every like a few months he goes and like just cries. It's like, and I say it's been a year, so he's like 26. So it's been like an entire year since then. And they all still go through their way home. I'll say at the one point the Pharaoh Fang show, they're like, boss, we've been looking forever. And Seth is like, yes, I know. You can't blame that on me. I got swept away in a like puddle, like a river of mud. And as they're all doing that, they're like, yeah. Well, let's get back to home, shall we? And they're all like, sure. And they all just like go off with their boss. And that will be the end of this series for now. I don't know if there's anything else I can add, really. So I don't know when that Sword of Artoria comes out, because I have not been able to find a place to watch it. So, as I digress, I don't know. I'm pretty sure it happens in the future, but I'm unsure. But as I digress, I will... Next like little series is What If Deku Was a Fallen? So I hope you guys look forward to that. And I will be adding some characters from the anime and like trying to take my own story. If you guys know who Deadbone Man is, he has his own version of What If Deku Was a Guardian. And I would recommend you actually go watch it. It's actually one of my favorite things he does. It's kind of like some adult content, I would say, but, you know. And I hope you all have a nice day, and this is an hour. Well, not an hour, almost. But thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a nice day, night, evening, whenever you're watching this. Bye, guys. OrcSlayer 16. Not OrcSlayer 16, OrcSlayer What If's out.